cooperation, we can adopt the motion to proceed and begin voting on amendments early today. Let me say it again. With Republican cooperation, we can adopt the motion to proceed and begin voting on amendments today. We should work together and complete this important bill before the Thanksgiving holiday. Last night's vote was overwhelmingly bipartisan, so there's no reason we can't come to an agreement very soon to begin debating amendments. And, Mr. President, there is already one important amendment that I want to mention, repealing the 2002 Iraq AUMF. This bipartisan measure was reported out of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee earlier this year, and I said months ago that the Senate should hold a vote on it. The NDAA is the logical place to do so. The Iraq War has been over for over a decade. An authorization passed in 2002 is no longer necessary for keeping Americans safe in 2021. It has been nearly 10 years since this particular authorization has been cited as a primary justification for a military operation. And there's a real danger to letting these legal authorities persist indefinitely. Repealing this AUMF will in no way hinder our national defense, nor will it impact our relationship with the people of Iraq. I want to thank Chairman Menendez, Senator Kaine, Senator Young, and every Republican and Democratic co-sponsor of the bill for working to bring this issue to the fore. And in the coming days, I hope we can come to an agreement on other common sense amendments to strengthen the defense bill so we can get it passed through the Senate as soon as possible. On Build Back Better. Madam President, now that President Biden has enacted his once-in-a-generation infrastructure bill, Democrats are taking the next steps towards passing the rest of his Build Back Better plan. The last year and a half have been unlike any in modern U.S. history. We've had a once-in-a-century pandemic followed by the worst economic crisis since the Great Depression. We've come a long way this year as we've lifted our country out of the depths of these crises, but the challenges, of course, aren't over. Americans right now want us to lower costs for things like health care, prescription drugs, child care. We have a responsibility to pass legislation that will cut costs and improve American lives. That's why we need to keep working on passing Build Back Better. We know that passing this critical legislation will lower costs from some of the most basic and essential things in everyday life. And as economists from leading rating agencies said yesterday, Build Back Better will not add to the inflationary pressures in the U.S. economy. The child care provision could alone save families thousands of dollars each year. Families on average spend $10,000 annually on child care for each child under 4. A generation ago, this was unheard of. Build Back Better will dramatically lower costs for millions of families by providing the largest investment in child care in American history. The same goes for prescription drugs. If you're one of the roughly 10 million Americans who relies on insulin to manage your diabetes, chances are you've been spending more and more as the cost of this once affordable drug has skyrocketed. It's truly one of the perplexing and frustrating trends of the past 2 decades. Well, Build Back Better will make it so Americans with diabetes don't pay more than $35 per month on insulin, by enabling Medicare to directly negotiate prices in Part B and Part D. Again, lowering costs, improving the lives of millions of families. Examples go on and on, how people will have more money in their pocket given their expenses. Build Back Better cuts taxes for parents raising kids. It makes pre-K universal for the first time ever. It will provide help for small businesses to invest within the U.S. and hire American workers. And ultimately, it is the best thing we can do to recapture that sunny American optimism that's been the key to our country's success. Creating jobs, lowering costs, fighting inflation, keeping more money in people's pockets. These are things Americans want and what Americans need, and it's what BBB does. We're going to keep working on this important legislation until we get it done. Now, on a much sadder note, Madam President, Mr. Syed, the Republican fixation on blocking qualified, uncontroversial, and essential nominees to fill roles in the Biden administration has hit a new and shameful low. Yesterday, every single Republican on the Small Business Committee boycotted a hearing that would have held a vote on Dilawar Syed's nomination for the #2 spot at the Small Business Administration. If confirmed, Mr. Syed would be the highest-ranking Muslim American in government. This is the fifth time that Republicans have failed to show up to a committee hearing for Mr. Syed. To date, we have yet heard a single legitimate reason for their opposition. At one point, some of my colleagues seemed to question Mr. Syed's allegiance because of his affiliation with a Muslim voter education group. That, Mr. President, is repugnant. And after those objections provoked fierce criticism, Republicans came up with entirely new fabrications for their resistance. But at no point have Republicans explained why Mr. Syed is not qualified for the job. Frankly, they can't, because Mr. Syed is a definition of a qualified candidate. His nomination has been praised by hundreds of business groups, including the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, hardly a liberal crowd. It's shameful, it's unacceptable, it's ridiculous for Republicans to keep stalling on Mr. Syed's nomination. He is eminently qualified to serve in the SBA. Why are Senate Republicans opposing Mr. Syed's nomination? And let me ask this again, because the question resonates. Why are Senate Republicans opposing Mr. Syed's nomination? I ask my Republican colleagues to drop their resistance and allow this excellent and straightforward nominee to receive confirmation. I yield the floor. Note the absence of a quorum.
The clerk will call the roll.
Ms. Baldwin.